One is we can use a linked list, or the other one is we can use an array to represent that binary tree structure. Can someone tell me which one is more efficient in representing a complete binary tree, an array or a list? We talked about this array representations earlier when we discussed about complexities. No, not a list, an array. You can imagine a binary tree. Let's say exactly, you can imagine a binary tree that has these sort of nodes, right? So let's say that the root node is 1. It has 2 child nodes, let's say 2 and 3, where 2 has 2 child nodes, let's say 4 and 5, and 3 has 2 child nodes, 6 and 7. So what we can do in order to represent this particular architecture is we can just say it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and we can represent this as an array here, where 1 is the node, the next 2 values are the child nodes, then we have 4 and 5 that are child nodes of 2, then we have 6 and 7 that are child nodes of 3, and we move forward like that. So doing some weird maths, that is always we are going to find the parent node as at the halfway point of location in our array. We can use that computation to figure out what the nodes are, and we can then detect and basically analyze our tree much more quickly rather than using a list that requires us to iterate through the tree one by one, right? Okay. So in order to insert this new element, we need to insert this at the very end of our array. So let's say that this new element that we found out was going to have the weight of, I don't know, 2.5, right? So we insert this at the very end of this array, and then we need a mechanism that would allow this to bubble up inside your tree while maintaining the tree structure such that it ends up somewhere around here, not necessarily here, but somewhere around here, that is in the correct sorted order in your heap. Okay, similarly, we also need to be able to decrease the value of a particular key. So let's say that we found a new path to this particular node that initially had the distance 6. Let's say that the new path can be found out, can be explored in 1.5 distance. We again need to be able to bubble this particular number up somewhere around here, such that once we decrease the value, we need to be able to update it to its current location or correct location. And finally, we should also be able to eject a particular node that has the lowest possible value. And so in order to eject that particular node, we would basically be ejecting out the root node. Now, if we are ejecting out the root node, you basically need to reorient your tree such that your tree still has a new root node. So what we can do is basically we return the root value for that particular tree, remove this element from the heap, take the last node that has the largest value in our tree, and we can find that last node by just using this array values here. We get the last node, place that particular node in the root node. Again, that node will not have the smallest value anymore, but now we need to be able to sift down this node such that every child, so if it is bigger than either child, we basically swap it with the smaller child, and then we basically repeat this process. Right, so this particular algorithm or this particular approach requires log n time, because it is basically going to sift down the number of levels, where the number of levels is defined as log n, where n vertices, right? Okay. So yes, so we can actually represent our binary tree using an array where we can have positions 1 through n within that array. And we know that j would always have a parent. So element at index j would have a parent at the floor value of j by 2. And it would have, j would have children at 2 times j and 2 times j plus 1 indices. Right, so that is how we can use an array to represent a complete binary tree. Okay, so now let's look at our binary heap and how it works. So let's say that we have this particular heap at the moment. So that has the values 3, then its children values for its children are 10 and 5. note that these values are larger than the parent, so that's fine. 10 has children 11 and 12, again larger than the parent, fine. 11 has children 15 and 20, 12 has children 13, and 5 has children 6 and 8, right? So now this is your current binary heap tree. If I want to get the element with the smallest value, I need only look at the root node there, but we'll come to that. But let's say that I'm trying to insert a new value in our particular tree. So let's say I want to insert the value 7 in our tree. So what we need to do is first insert 7 at the very end of our tree as the last node of our tree and allow it to bubble up to its correct location. So once we insert 7 here, we compare it with the parent. Remember, only one rule need to be followed. The parent cannot have a value larger than the child. So 7 and comparing 7 and 12, we see that 12 is larger than 7. So we swap these two values. So 12 goes here, 7 goes here. Again, comparing 7 with 10, 10 is larger, we swap 7 and 10. So 7 goes here, 10 goes here. Now again, we compare 7 with 3, that is fine, parent is smaller, we are done. And now 7 is at the correct location for this particular tree. So that was inserting a new element for this particular, in this particular tree. Now let's say that we want to delete an element from this tree. So in order to delete, we will always delete the root node. So we want to delete the number 3. So we delete that, and now we have this empty space. So in order to reorient or rebalance this particular tree, we would basically be inserting the largest, I mean the element that is the right, that is at the rightmost of your array representation, that is the number 12. You place that number 12 in the root location here, and then you allow it to shift down to its correct location. So again, the parent cannot have a larger value than your child. So essentially we see that it has two children, 7 and 5. Both of them are smaller than the root node, that is 12. In this case, we will always pick the node with the smallest value. So in this case, it was 5. And we swap 5 and 12. So 5 goes first, and then we get 12. Right? Now we compare 12 with 6 and 8. Again, both of them are smaller. And we swap it with the smallest value. So 12 goes here, 6 goes there. And now we have this new binary tree that now has the smallest element, that is 5. Now we can again delete this here, and we can keep on doing this. And every delete procedure requires log n times because it might take log n swaps. Every insert procedure takes log n time because it can take log n swaps to bubble up. Again, if we want to change the value of a particular node, let's say that we want to change the value of this particular value 8 into some other value, let's say 4. So we update this value to 4, and again, we do the same thing as we did for inserting a new node. We just swap it with the parent if it is not following the rules. So if this node is 4, we swap it with 6. So we have 5, 4, 6. Then we compare it with 5, and we swap it with 5, and then it becomes 4, 5, 6. Right. So we can also update the value of a particular node. We can insert a new node in our tree, and we can delete the most minimum value from that particular node. So this is the architecture. There are other architectures that you can use for a priority queue. You can use a sorting algorithm to sort all the elements. That is fine as well. But this is the easiest way and the least complex way of sorting or designing a priority queue data structure for your algorithm. And that is where we get that complexity of V plus E times log of V. So does that make sense to everyone? How a binary heap works, and if I ask you, will you be able to implement this particular data structure as a function maybe? Only 2 people will be able to implement this, nobody else. I can explain again if you are confused. Okay. Moving forward. Let's see. Okay, so we talked about graphs that have different edge weights, and how we can use Dijkstra's algorithm to find the shortest path in that particular graph with respect to those entire distances. Now, let's talk about this weird case where we were talking, up to now we were talking about positive edge weights, but we can also theoretically have negative edge weights as well, right? So in this example, let's say we have an edge from S to A that is of weight 3, S to B that has a weight 4, and B to A that has a weight of -2. So in order to actually figure out the shortest distance to all of these nodes, let's say that we start from S. What do you guys think is the shortest distance for A and the shortest distance for B? Can someone tell me the shortest distance for A and B? What it should be? So if I applied some algorithm, what will be S to A and what will be S to B? If we have this particular graph here, would S be 3 and B be 4? 2 comma 4, right? Because we have this direct edge from S to A that is of size 3, but if we go via B, so that is S to B then B to A, then A's value becomes 4 minus 2, that gives us 2, right? Exactly. Yes, S to B is still 4, exactly, you're correct, and S to A becomes 2. Now imagine that we are applying Dijkstra's algorithm to this graph. More importantly, we are applying BFS to this graph, right? End of the day, it's just a BFS. If we apply Dijkstra to this graph, it will actually insert those edges or these vertices inside that queue, where A would be inserted first because A is in a priority queue with a lower value, so A equals to 3. Then comes B. A will be explored, and then when we get to B, A is already explored, and so Dijkstra will not look at this particular vertex anymore, and Dijkstra would tell us essentially that S to A, the shortest distance is 3, S to B, the shortest distance is 4, because again, let me reiterate, if we start off from S, it will first find out those two vertices, that is A with a value of 3, it will insert that in the queue, and then it will insert B that has a value of 4, and it will be in this particular order in the queue, right? Once it has done that, it will now start exploring from A. Now A has nothing from going outside from it, so A is done. Now it will explore starting from B. Now, if it starts from B, there is an edge to A. However, A is already visited. So as far as B is concerned, A is visited, so there is no other edge from B to A, and we are done. Right, so does everyone see why Dijkstra's algorithm in this scenario uh, will not give you the correct solution of S2, S2A2 and S2B4, and instead will give you the distances 3 and 4 instead. Right? So what can we do in order to fix this particular problem? Well, the only reason that Dijkstra does not